One of the things I was asked about recently, and I'm hoping you can provide the answer because I could not completely provide the answer,
Yes.
was many people in terms of the creative process, whether they're artists or not artists, have a very intense self-critical voice, right? This is not good
Yes.
enough. You can't draw. You shouldn't draw. What are you doing with your time? So do you have that, and how do you either work with it or silence it? Like, how do you use it to actually help your creative process?
Um, that's an interesting one. I think that voice probably a lot of creatives have. I think for me, where I feel it the most is in writing, where I haven't been able to share my writings because that voice has haunted me throughout my life. And I've been writing since I was probably 6, 7 years old.
Right.
Um, and I think I'm having a breakthrough of it closer to um, this moment. I think when I sent my writing to an editor, she literally fixed, I think, probably just 3 paragraphs and
Wow.
also a few things as well. It was just like either a punctuation there or trying to describe it at a better level. And that gave me confidence that actually I can write. I was just afraid that it wasn't good enough all along. And also, it was the doubt of who am I to identify as a writer.
Mm.
I felt like I had to get permission from someone. And I think that's when it really stifles you, when you can't even share to the public. But when it comes to painting, I've understood that I can't control the outpour or the outcome. So whatever comes through, I'm normally just okay with it. It's just like, I feel like it has taught me to let go of control. And I think maybe the voice is also paired with control, trying to perfect whatever you're trying to do, while perfection is a forever process.
So what advice would you give to people who have this critical voice in drawing? Because you've obviously were able
Yes.
to transcend it on a certain level. What advice would you give to them in terms of overcoming this? And especially since you understand the two processes in you, with regard to writing and painting and
Mm,
how different those voices are.
yes. Uh, to be honest, I would say it's just starting where you are and being okay with the imperfections. I think really the strive for perfection is probably what hinders a lot of people from ever appearing in or showing up in whichever field that they're destined for. And I see it a lot with people, even with myself, where I'm still not participating because I feel like it's not good enough. But it's actually time and years that perfect the craft. And the more you open it up to people, the more you get different perspectives. But because you're so caught up in your single perspective, you just feel like it's not good enough.
I actually think that was advice for me, actually, the way you said it. So thank you. It wasn't my question, it was from somebody else, but I could completely relate to it,
I feel,
actually.
I feel like I have to play it back to myself as
Is that
well. Yes.
right? The other interesting thing you mentioned was about perfectionism and the value of it on some level, and then its harm on some level. So yeah, how does that, because you sort of need an aspect of it to make something excellent and beautiful, and at the same time you need to
Yes.
let go of the extreme of it, so yeah, how do you do
Yes.
that?
Um, I've only figured out this year that perfectionism isn't the healthiest um, pursuit, to be honest. And this is just seeing it how it affects my relation to other people, because I expect excellence and perfection from my side. And I feel like the relationship that I have with myself, automatically it translates to the next person. So I think when it comes to creativity, a lot of people get to appreciate it because it's a search that is at a different level compared to what a lot of people will just measure to be okay. So for in the case of, I see it mostly in curation, where you almost have to have a sense of OCD as well that comes in, where you're striving. Like for me, when I step into a room and something is skew, I can pick it up anywhere and it bothers me immediately. It's like, but that's skew. And for other people, that's okay. It's the nature and expression of the individuals in the space. But in my space, it has to be controlled. It has to be orderly. And when someone described me in the past as a perfectionist, it was a compliment for me. It was like, great, that's what I aspire for. But now that I look at it again, I'm like, that can be very intimidating as well to other people. So I think in terms of creativity and excellency, it works. It puts you in a different bracket compared to others. But at the same time, I think you always have to check it back into your personal life where it doesn't then become toxic to the other relationships. Yeah. I'd like to also hear from your side what you think about perfectionism.
No, I completely agree with you, but I think where we struggle, as you've mentioned also, is finding that balance. Because one of the stories I read, and I haven't checked to verify it, but it sounded believable, was Monet used to throw away a lot of his paintings. They were just not good enough for him, because the construct you're making in your head is not the same as what you're translating onto paper. So even though the art is actually good, you're comparing it to what you wanted to create, right? And therefore it's not good enough. And so he threw away thousands of paintings. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating, maybe not thousands. But I do wonder if that process of discarding also then encourages you to push beyond a certain limit so that you do achieve the sublime in art or in other fields. But yes, it is a balance, because if it stops you from creating, it defeats the purpose, right?
That is true. That is very true. Yeah. But I think also like that reach, sometimes it just needs more years for you to get to where you can see the picture, but it requires specific skills that your brain hasn't really picked up on.
Yeah, which you develop with practice.
Yes.
And so in terms of, again, it was something with another discussion that I had, and somebody else asked me after that discussion as well. So in terms of both silencing this voice or achieving a state of flow, there are people who use certain drugs such as cannabis, etc., in terms of achieving this. I'm very conservative with regard to the use of it because I have seen quite harmful effects. But what is your perspective on this in terms of creativity and in terms of health?
Interestingly, for me, what I've aspired to do or be an example of is the fact that you don't need a specific drug to, especially chemical drugs, to actually create. But I also say this at the same time, contrasting myself, because I would say something like love. Love induces chemicals to your brain. I don't know if I'm correct, if it's oxytocin.
It does.
And and that could be another search. And I think for me, at some point, I just became almost like a love addict, where I'm constantly seeking this feeling, which induces specific chemicals that will enhance the creation part. So, and that also is kind of unhealthy because you
but
find
it is
yourself
natural.
in that relationship. It is natural, but it's just also not advisable. But I haven't induced any other form of drugs, or would I partition any other to be in the space of creativity.